Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of Economi in Place, dated the 24th of September. My name is Councillor Michael Smith and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will continue and a recording will be made available through the Council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Can I please remind members that translation facilities are available, and if you want to make use of this facility, please select the English language option on the microphone delegate unit if you're in the council chamber, and for those attending remotely by clicking the audio settings tab and selecting English. For those wishing to speak in the council chamber, please press your microphone push speak button, which is located at the bottom of the microphone console. Similarly, for those attending remotely, please press the push to speak tab and do not use the yellow hand function. This should only be used if you want to come in on a point of order. For those attending remotely, please note that those in the chamber will be unable to use the chat facility. Remote attendees, if you do need to leave the meeting temporarily, please pop a message in the chat function so that the Democratic Services Officer is aware. I expect everyone present and participating in the meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful of each other, and that applies to members, officers, members of the press and the public attending today. When I open up the debate to members, I will ask committee members to speak and put their questions first. I will then ask non-committee members to push their buttons to request to speak, following by any cabinet members. It would be useful if members could ask all the questions in one go. And while I do not wish to stifle debate, can I remind members that any questions should be focused on the subject matter to avoid repetition. In order to maintain your place in the speaker queue when asking a question, please leave your microphone on until you have received a response and asked any supplementary questions. Thank you. I'll be going to the agenda now, and before I do that, I'd just like to welcome Councillor Mandy Hawkins to the committee. Welcome tonight. And item 1 on the agenda for tonight is to seek nominations for Vice Chair position following Councillor Hannah Fleet going on to Cabinet. So thank you. So I would like to ask if there's any proposals for nominations tonight. I've got some speakers. So first I would like to bring in Councillor Nia Owen.
Diolch yn fawr, Gadeirydd. Ydy pawb yn gallu'n glywed i?
Yndan ni, da ni'n clywed chi.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Ga i gynnig cynghorydd Aron Wyn ar gyfer is-gadeirydd y Pwyllgor yma, os gwelwch yma.
Thank you, Nia. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Sharon.
I would like to second that.
Thank you. Do I have any? Sorry, confused myself there. Do we have any other speakers? Okay. Councillor Aaron is not here tonight.
Can you put your microphone on, please?
Councillor Chris.
In the process of doing it, unfortunately, I got to the front door and couldn't get in. So
That's okay, Councillor Chris. If you just take a minute, if you've got a proposal.
Thanks, Chair.
You're live now.
Can I propose Councillor Mandy Hawkins?
Yep, thank you. And do we have a seconder for Councillor Mandy? If Councillor Harry would like to come in.
Yes, I am on. Fantastic. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second that
Okay.
proposal. Why not?
Okay, so we have 2 proposers and 2 seconders for 2 candidates. So is there any further proposals tonight for Vice Chair? Okay, so if we could go to a...
Yeah, so if we just make it clear that it's green.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is going to go to a vote. So it'll be alphabetical.
So we'll do green for Councillor Mandy.
So it'll be green for Councillor Mandy and red for Councillor Aaron, and yellow for any abstentions tonight. So the vote will be opened shortly, and that'll commence. Still have a couple of people that haven't voted tonight. I'll just give it a minute more.
Okay, yeah. Councillor Mandy.
So tonight, Councillor Mandy, congratulations. You've been appointed Vice Chair. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Could we end? So thank you for that. So we're going to go to item 2 now. This is apologies for absences. And see what we received.
Yeah, just one apology from Councillor Ros Griffiths-Williams.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest, Code of Local Government Conduct. Can I remind members that they must declare the nature of the declared personal interests? Any declarations tonight? I think we've got Councillor Dilwyn wanting to come in.
Thank you, Chair. I think I better declare a personal interest for the reason that I always have done when anything that would involve path areas has been under debate. And the reason for that personal interest is that I am distantly related to Mr Bryn Williams, who is at Path Areas.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dilwyn. Any other declarations of interest? No, thank you. Urgent matters. So notice of items which, in the opinion of myself, should be considered as a matter of urgency. Nothing tonight. Fantastic. And on to item 5. So we're looking to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the previous meeting. These are pages 4 to 10 in the agenda pack, and I'm looking for a proposer tonight. Thank you, Councillor Gale. And we've got Councillor Carol Beard seconding that. Is that right, Councillor Carol? Yeah, fantastic. So if we could approve the minutes then with a show of hands. Sorry.
Sorry, if I could come in really quickly on a point of order.
Sure.
There. Yeah, someone just said shock. Conscious Sharon's just voted for it to my left. I think Mandy did as well. You'll recall the legal advice we were given at the last meeting, which is that members that were not present at a meeting and were not members of the committee shouldn't be voting on minutes. So I wonder, could we have that clarified?
Yeah, sure.
Please, just to make sure that the decision-making process is robust.
Yeah, so we will not be able to count the 2 new members' votes. So we're looking for we have had a proposer and a seconder from members that did attend that meeting. So if we could have a show of hands tonight for those that did attend, and we're present at the meeting. Have we got any against? And any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Councillor Harry. And item 6. So these are the minutes of the local area forum. They offer information only. And this is local area forum central. They're going to be presented tonight by Councillor Cheryl Carlisle, who is the chair. And if I'd like to bring you in now.
Diolch, Chair. Excuse, I think I've caught the man flu that's going around. Yes, I'd just like to ask members to accept these minutes. We had an excellent meeting, the Colwyn Bay Recovery and Investment Project, previously known as the Active Travel, and we have got recommendations regarding that going forward to the next meeting. So as we were rather down on numbers, missing a lot of our stalwarts. So, diolch, Chair.
Thank you very much. And we've got Councillor Chris Hughes that would like to come in on that.
Thanks, yeah. I just wanted to move reference back to the committee because in the minutes it says understanding orders. I want to move reference back because it says that those were recommendations and there was a discussion, but because of the numbers there was no votes taken, so they can't be considered recommendations and they need to go back to that committee.
Okay.
Chair, if I could just come back there. It was, I've been through the transcript, Councillor Chris has raised this, and myself and committee services have been through the exact transcript, and there were recommendations made by Councillor Gail Jones and Councillor Gareth Jones, and because we only had so few members there, the recommendations were to go forward to the next meeting, and that's reflected in the minutes.
So on advice, what we're going to do tonight is we'll note the minutes, and it is to go back to the committee for any amendments. But as it is only noting for this committee, we'll have you take that back. And thank you very much for presenting tonight. So we're going to take a vote to note the minutes with the amendment that is going back. So if we could have a show of hands tonight, please. Oh, proposer and a seconder, sorry. Councillor Harry, Councillor Allen, thank you very much. And a vote with hands, thank you. Any against tonight? And any abstentions? Thank you very much. So item 7 now. These are the minutes of the North Wales Police and Crime panel for information only. These are pages 14 to 21 in the agenda pack. I am looking for a proposer. I'm looking to Councillor Allen as he is a member of that, and I was hoping he may propose them.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I am a member of the Police and Crime Commission panel, so I'm more than happy to recommend that the minutes are noted.
Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. And do we have a seconder for Councillor Allen? Councillor Harry, thank you very much. And if we could go for a vote with hands tonight. Thank you. A show of hands. For any against? And any abstentions? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you all. So item 8 is the questions to Cabinet members. Tonight we have none. So we'll move past that agenda item into item 9, which is the review of the forward work programme. So these are pages 23 to 30 in the report pack, followed by 31 and 66 for the combined forward work programme. Are there any comments on that tonight? I will just read some updates for you. So there's a report documenting the progress and seeking support for the next steps in relation to PLAS Undre development and the depot relocation projects will be presented in the next meeting of the 22nd of October 2025. There's also a report seeking support for the initiation of the public consultation exercise on the potential implementation of a discretionary tourism levy, which will be presented to the meeting scheduled on the 17th of December 2025. Can I please remind members that they only raise issues that relate to the remit of this committee tonight? Are there any proposers or seconders for that? So we do have Councillor Harry in the chamber wanting to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And look, to speed things along, more than happy to propose that we note the forward work programme and we adopt it. But I did have one query actually on the tourism levy item. I'm having a look here, and it's due to go to this committee and then Cabinet the following day in December. Isn't that a matter that would go near Council at any point? Appreciate it's a new power, so not sure, but I would have thought that would sit with Council. No?
Councillor Harry, with advice, we'll look into that. I'll get Sally to get you an answer back on that. Is that okay? It looks like Councillor, is that Councillor Charlie? Councillor Charlie?
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that it's a decision to start the consultation process. It's not a decision to actually bring in the levy, which would be a decision for full council, Harry.
Has that satisfied you, Harry, then, with tonight? Yeah, lovely. Oh, thank you. So we've got Councillor Harry who has proposed, following his question. We've got a seconder, Councillor Gale, in the chamber. So ask members to show their hands to approve the Economy in Place forward work programme and the combined forward work programme. So if we could have a show of hands. Thank you very much. That was for. Any against? And any abstentions tonight? Thank you, that has been carried. Item 10. So we are going to consider tonight a report by the Head of Law and Governance on the following matters. So co-option of youth representatives of the Conway Youth Council on overview and scrutiny committees. So we do have Youth Council member Callum Morrissey, who's going to present to us tonight. You have previously spoken at other scrutiny committees, so well versed, and welcome to our committee tonight. I also met you at Town Council, so getting well acquainted. You've got a 3-minute window for your speech tonight. And firstly, I think Councillor Dillwyn is going to look. Okay, just Callum, sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I've got 3 minutes, so I'm going to go quite fast and try and get the point across, which is extremely important. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Callum Morrissey, and I'm Chair of Conway Youth Council. So, as young people, we already feel the impact of the decisions made in this committee and beyond. Your decisions affect whether our schools get the support they need, whether transport works for us, and whether services really do survive for young people and improve. And we live with those outcomes every single day. That's why it's really important that we also have a say in shaping them and making your decisions stronger as an overview and scrutiny committee. Now, I would argue that the Conway Youth Council is one of the strongest youth councils in any local authority in Wales. We've led campaigns, advised on policy, and represented Conway nationally for all young people, and helped really turn ideas into real change with real effects. And we're proud of the role that we have, but we also believe that our energy, insight and commitment can support the work of this Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Now, what we're suggesting isn't about making things more difficult for you. Actually, it's about making your decisions more stronger and creative. And it's about involving youth voice, and I argue that it brings more balance and stability to your decisions, but also it reflects the people that you represent, because at the end of the day, you also represent young people as much as you do the adults in the room. And just to give you a bit of background to the Conway Youth Council, the next few months are quite important to us. We're focusing on some national leading practices that we have created as young people and which have been spread across other local authorities throughout Wales and the UK. And we just want to make sure that the Overview and Scrutiny Committees have the support they need to ensure that they make the best decisions for their residents. And taking our representation for young people from 8 meetings to 44 would be a really big testament to that. It would be extremely impactful, and it would showcase your commitment to young people and ensuring that a young people is at the table to ensure that our voices are heard. And that's what we want to ensure happens. So again, we already feel the impact of your decisions, but we need to make sure that they are stronger, more stable, and have a bigger impact for both young people in Conway and beyond. So I'll leave it there, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Colin. So the report is going to be introduced by Councillor Dillwyn, Cabinet Member for Culture and Governance and IT.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Mae bleser gynnau gael cyflwyno'r adroddiad yma, ac diolch yn fawr iawn unwaith eto I Callum am ddod ata ni I egluro y sefyllfa, ac dwi'n siŵr bod ni gyd yn dallt o rando ar Callum mor, gymaint o feddwl sgynnyn nhw o'r cyngor yma ac isio bod yn rhan, ac dwi'n gwybod yn y gorffennol dwi wedi cael y pleser o gyfarfod hefo cyngor ieuenctid yn Gonwy yma ar aml I achlysur, mynd yn dod dipyn o flynyddoedd wan, ac mae'r brwdfrydedd sgynnyn nhw tuag at beth sy'n digwydd yn lleol. Mae o yn sicr yn heintus, ac dwi'n mynd I ofyn I Sian wan, a diolch iddi am y gwaith yn dod yr adroddiad ymlaen I fynd trwy'r adroddiad. Diolch, Sian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sian.
Thank you. Yes, Chair. As the report says, in 2019, Council agreed to allow a small pool of representatives from the Youth Council to rotate attendance as co-opted members on the Education and Skills Overview and Scrutiny Committee, without voting rights, but to ensure that the voice of young people was heard as part of the Council's decision-making process. We've just heard from the chair of the Conwy Youth Council about the request to expand that representation across all our scrutiny committees. So this report is being presented, or this is the third scrutiny committee actually that this report has been presented to, because it's for each individual scrutiny committee to consider and make a recommendation to council on whether or not it wishes to appoint non-statutory co-optees onto their committees. In exercising or deciding whether to co-opt, the committee must have regard to Welsh Government statutory guidance, and there's a link at the end of the report that has been circulated to members, a link to that statutory guidance. The guidance recognises that the co-option of members is a way to build a more diverse membership and can provide a way to support broader public participation in local democracy. And then you'll see in paragraph 3.6, I've listed 3 requirements really for committees to consider in terms of co-option. Based on questions at previous scrutiny committees, I do think it's important to understand the difference between lay members and statutory and non-statutory co-opted members. So for our lay members, and those are the ones that sit on our Standards Committee and Governance and Audit Committee, there is separate legislation that covers those appointments. They're appointed through an interview process, and any members co-opted under those provisions are required to comply with the Code of Conduct. And we refer to those as lay members rather than co-opted members. It avoids confusion. We then have statutory co-opted members who are non-elected representatives with voting rights. They are appointed to specific roles required by law. These include those members that are the apparent governor representatives and church representatives that are also co-opted onto our Education and Skills Scrutiny Committee. Any members co-opted under these provisions are required by law to comply with the Code of Conduct, and as such they remain in the meeting for exempt items relevant to their appointment. We then have the non-statutory co-opted members, and that's what we're talking about today, appointed to scrutiny committees in line with the Local Government Wales measure, who aren't afforded voting rights. Consequently, they are not bound by statute to comply with the Code of Conduct for elected members. However, statutory guidance states that co-opted members should be encouraged to abide by the principles set out in the Code and conduct themselves to the highest standards of ethical behaviour. For non-statutory co-optees, it is advised that successful applicants are required to sign a statement of appointment that will include terms governing appropriate conduct. Specifically, on accepting office, co-opted members should be required to declare that they will observe the Code of Conduct for members in the particular council's constitutions, and that covers things about treating others with respect, not disclosing confidential information, and disclosing relevant personal interests. And that's the process that we have adopted for the non-statutory co-opted members that currently sit on our Education and Skills Scrutiny Committee. So this, as I've said, this report has been discussed at the Finance and Resources Scrutiny Committee and the Social Care and Health Scrutiny Committee, and members discussed whether the current arrangements should be extended to other scrutiny committees. Specifically at the Finance and Resources Scrutiny Committee, members raised safeguarding concerns and whether it was appropriate to place young people in a position where they could feel pressurised to share confidential information, given some of the issues discussed across our scrutiny committees. This was also raised at the Social Care and Health Scrutiny Committee meeting. So as such, both Finance and Resources and Social Care are recommending that a representative of the Youth Council be invited to attend and participate as a non-statutory co-optee without voting rights during the open, i.e. the non-exempt part of their meetings only. And those are the recommendations that are going to the Council for those particular scrutiny committees. It's something for this committee to consider itself.
Thank you very much, Sean. So I'm looking to open debate now, so if any members that wish to have a discussion or bring up any points. Councillor Chris Hughes first.
Thank you, Chair. this is the third time I've heard this presentation from Callum, and it gets more and more polished every time. Congratulations. In 2019, I pursued the views of the youth council at that time, and I was always disappointed that the council decided only to invite members onto the economy and onto the education and skills committee, because I know where they really wanted to be is on this committee, because this is shaping their communities, their lives. It has a huge impact, because all of these young people who are looking forward to their future life in careers, employment and stuff, they want to shape that. They want to have a say in how their future looks. And certainly there was no doubt in my conversations with the youth council at that time that this was the committee they wanted to be on more than any other. They wanted to be on everything, but this one was so important to them, and I fully endorse that position. I'm very, very supportive of giving young people a say. I have had many conversations with young people from infant school right through. I've been to school governor meetings at the school where I'm a governor, and it's the infant school, and had really good constructive conversations about the community in which we live, and they make some really good points. So once you've got to high school level, I think they're as capable of entering into debate as most of the people who will ever frequent this chamber. And they make some fantastic points, which we often forget. We often, with all of us of a certain age, we need know everything we've done in the past and everything we want to do in the future. But we're not millennials. We don't always know what we don't know. And young people often know an awful lot more about those things than we do. I've always been educated by my sons as to what I should and shouldn't be doing. So I am very happy to propose that we do invite representatives of the Youth Council to sit on this body in accordance with the recommendations. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chris. Councillor Alhunter.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I was going to propose, but I'm more than happy to second Chris's proposal to bring somebody on, but it does need to have that caveat that we've had in all the other scrutiny committees, that they are not allowed to be in for exempt items. I listened to the Frost meeting, I was here for that, and there were some very valid points raised about the amount of pressures that we put on people. So I think that's a good thing to have in place, that they can't take part in the exempt items. But other than that, I'm more than happy to second.
Thank you for seconding that. Councillor Harry.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I've got a question for Callum, if that's okay, through you, yes, sure. Chair. But look, I'll just be really clear, but before I ask a question, very much supportive of the broad direction of travel here, and I think it'd be frankly surprising if we as a committee voted to do something different or make a different recommendation to finance and resources and health and social care scrutiny committees. But my query was, obviously there's a request here that we co-opt members of the Youth Council onto our scrutiny committees. I think that that request and that interest is certainly to be welcomed. But the query I would have is, there already exists a provision for members of the public, and that would include members of the Youth Council that are interested in business of our scrutiny committees, to attend and participate, albeit not on the same level as a non-statutory co-optee, but certainly that there is an opportunity for them to participate. So I just wondered if we could have some clarity, how often has that been used, perhaps over the last year? And if it hasn't been used, then why not?
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Harry. Callum, are you able to come in on that point?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, fully take that question, and it was interesting what you raised about that level. So the difference between members of the public coming here and sitting as a non-voting co-optee, and that level should be the same regardless if you're a young person or an adult. You're a councillor with voting rights, that's fully acceptable, and we would be a youth council member with non-voting rights, and that's the level we should sit on as a youth council. Otherwise, we're just any other young person as a member of the public, which doesn't show a testament to Conway's commitment to young people at all. And in terms of the history behind that, to be completely honest, I don't know. I became chair early last year, and before that, I think it was in October 2019, was the first time young people ever sat on an overview and scrutiny committee, and that was only for the education committee. Since then, since I became chair, I realised that the young people sitting on the youth council wanted this to happen, wanted it to be on all overview and scrutiny committees, and so we actioned that as young people. Before that, unfortunately, I don't know because I wasn't on the youth council. All I know is that we were taking it from 8 meetings to 44 a year, so every overview and scrutiny committee, there would be a co-opted non-voting youth council member sitting there defending young people. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Harry, happy?
Yeah, incredibly happy. I was going to say that is an incredibly persuasive answer. I was going to say jokingly, perhaps we need Callum actually on cabinet. But yeah, look, really, really happy with that incredibly persuasive answer. Thanks.
So, do we have any other speakers tonight on this item? So we do have a proposal from Councillor Chris Hughes. I would just like to come back to you with your proposal because you didn't mention about the exempt items. Are you happy with Councillor Allen seconding you with that caveat on there, following the recommendations from the other scrutiny committees?
I have reservations, but in order to get the proposal passed, I'm happy to accept that. I think hopefully in years to come, future councils will take the step of admitting them youth council reps to all meetings. But at this stage, yes, I'm happy to take that on board.
That's it. So we're looking at we've had a proposal on the sector for the recommendations 2.1 and 2.2 in the report pack, and that is that each of the overview and scrutiny committees consider the request for the Conway Youth Council to make recommendations to Council, and that Council consider the recommendations as to whether there should be representation from the Youth Council on all 4 of the Council's overview and scrutiny committees. So we're going to start the vote. This will be done via our devices tonight, and so if we could ask for the vote to be opened. And that's unanimously passed. Thank you very much. So if I could have the vote closed. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Callum, for your presentation tonight. Look forward to seeing you at some next meetings or one of your representatives. Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Is that correct? As a member. Or you can get yourself home if you prefer. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I wasn't checking if you could go home. You are welcome to. Just wanted clarity if you could stay. There we go. Fantastic. So apologies there. So item 11, to consider a report by the Head of Economy and Culture on the following matters. So this is Portharius, Colwyn Bay, pages 74 to 82 in the report packs tonight. The report is to be introduced by Councillor Dilwyn Roberts, Cabinet Member for Culture and Governance and IT, and Officer Sarah Acob, Head of Economy and Culture, will provide the details on the report. So I'd like to bring you in, Councillor Dilwyn.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch yn fawr iawn chi gadeirydd. Gai yn gynta, ddiolch i swyddogion am baratoi'r adroddiad yma sydd yn gynhwysfawr ac yn adrodd yn ôl ar y gofynion. I will say some bit in English as well. And with your permission, Chair, I'd like just a couple of minutes, a bit of the history here. Portharius as a building is part, or was part, of a very, very large project, a very, very important one for Colwyn Bay as Sea Defence. For those of us who remember how it was, there was, well, I remember a beach there years ago, a very nice beach. And all that was washed away by the currents over a matter of years. Before this scheme started, I remember mentioning in one part, there was a 15-foot drop from the road down to where the stones were. And it was high time we started doing something about the sea defence. We applied for European funding and we're very, very lucky in achieving that, which has saved the road, protected it. Also, in no time, we would have had the railway and the A55 in danger. So I'm very pleased that Economi Council in the past was able to achieve that. After taking on this portfolio, I realised, well, we knew that efforts have been made with port areas. It hasn't worked exactly like a lot of us would have wanted it to. That is no fault of anybody. It was the situation as it was. So after looking at it, I took it on myself to try and get hold of the Crown Estate to see if there was any discussion to be had there. I spoke to them, I saw them face to face, and they were very keen to talk. When I met with them, with the leader and officers here, I had the opportunity to explain to them the whole project, like I've said now, and they were very impressed what Conwy Council had done to save the coastline there, and which obviously would have been of concern to the Crown Estate. We had a very, very good meeting with them, a very positive meeting. And since then, we've arranged to have another meeting. But since then, the leader has received an email from the officers that we met with today, which I was copied into. And that, again, is very, very positive. So, yes, we're hoping that this will enable us now to move forward with other ideas for port areas. Having them on board now is going to make it much easier for us as a council and our officers to be able to discuss and develop our ideas for there. I won't go any more into it now, because at the moment, because no decisions have been made, but what I can assure you is that we had a good meeting and we're meeting again them very soon. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to achieve that, because it's something that's been very difficult to achieve in the past. So if I can, Chair, hand you over to Sarah here to go through the report. And thank you for your time. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you for your update. Thank you, Sarah.
Diolch. Thank you. So further to member request, we're bringing this report to give you an overview of the current position at Portherius. Members will note that the net costs of running the building are increasing, with the main contributing factors being increasing energy costs and the loss of some tenants. The building does operate with a budget and would continue to do so even with a full complement of tenants, which is something we're looking at. The authority was lucky to secure some years ago a renowned chef to Portherius, and he is still running a very successful business in the building, which I'm sure members are all well aware of. And we're also currently working through the process of issuing leases for two of the further available rooms with new tenants. It's been quite difficult finding new tenants for a number of reasons, including the Crown Estate restrictions, but I'm pleased to report that thanks to Councillor Dilwyn, the positive meeting we had with their officers, I think will make a difference. They had already relaxed some of the restrictions that we have on the lease, which opened up the building for the 2 tenants that we're currently working to secure to get them in. And I think we had really good timing when Councillor Dilwyn got in touch. There's a new director at the Crown Estate, so we will keep you all posted on where we get to with that. But it will make a difference to how we think about the future of the building, I think. The internal toilets have been a subject of much discussion. The toilets are really small in the building, and they're only sufficient really for the tenants in the building and for their customers. And there are public toilets immediately opposite Partherius, which are funded by the town council at the moment. And we were also pleased to receive a grant recently from the Welsh Government to upgrade the toilet facilities and also to carry out some work to the internal layout of Partherius. We are currently reviewing the scope of that work. Members here have given us some comments on that, so we are looking at some potential changes, and myself and Mandy will be meeting with local members on the 2nd of October to discuss those potential changes that we're thinking about there. The proposals are seeking to address a number of internal issues, as well as the toilet situation with the layout of the building, both post-COVID and with changed needs since the building was first conceived, as Councillor Dilwyn alluded to. As we discuss in the report, it's very clear that the increased costs of running the building, that we need to find new uses and new approaches to what we do with the building. I mentioned we've got one very successful tenant. The restaurant is one of only 2 Michelin Guide restaurants that we have in our county. It does bring people into the promenade. And as I said, we've got some more tenants lined up. And our relationship with the Crown Estate is changing, we hope, for the better. So with those things in mind, we're considering a number of options, including potentially expanding the leisure use. Hopefully members will be aware from other meetings that we have a really successful programme of water safety that goes on outside of the building, with thousands of young people every year being trained to be aware of safety in the sea and in water, which is a really important piece of work the leisure team do. We are also looking at the options to continue with marketing the spaces now that Crown Estates are less and will potentially change again. So opening up again and broadening who will be able to come in as a tenant. As part of that work, we have considered, should we focus on attracting some selected industries, but we don't think that would change the financial bottom line, but it's still something that we are evaluating. And as I mentioned, we're also re-evaluating the proposed internal reconfiguration as part of the funding package that we've already got to complement the rest of the decisions. And potentially expand that work, but that would involve securing more capital funds. So in terms of timescales, the 2 new tenants, we have to get planning because that's a different use for inside the building. So our estates team are working through that at the moment, and that has been already approved by Crown Estates, which is good, but our own planning process has to go through. We're meeting Crown Estates again in December for further discussions about reimagining our relationship with them. And our meeting with local members is on the 2nd of October, and then we will continue with the process of deciding exactly how to spend the Brilliant Basics grant that we've been awarded. And obviously that will be in conversation with the Welsh Government if we do make changes to that proposal. So I hope that gives members a bit of an overview of where we are and reassures you that we are working behind the scenes, trying to establish new and interesting ways of using the building and making sure that we get those spaces that are empty at the moment back in use as quickly as possible. Diolch.
Thank you, Sarah, for the detail on the report. So going to open debate now. So do we have any speakers on this tonight in the chamber? Councillor Gale. first.
Thank you. Firstly, you said there's a meeting on the 2nd of October with local members. Has the invitations been sent out to that? Because I've not heard anything about it.
Apologies, I thought I'd switched my mic off and then I did switch it off. Yes, they have gone out, Councillor Gale. I will check that you are on the list. Apologies.
Neither me or Councillor Neil have heard anything about it.
Oh, right.
And that's
okay.
not the first time we've been missed out.
Okay, I will double check that for you. Diolch.
Yeah, if I can bring in Councillor Louise.
I'm happy to come in after committee members if you want, but if not, I'll go now.
No other speakers at that moment.
So thanks for the report, and I do remember the pain of Portharius when I was in Dilwyn shoes. But I think the first thing I need to say is that there has to be some accountability for this, because this is exactly what I was saying to do with the Llandudno Library and the Venue Cymru Futures bid. There has to be some accountability. We have to learn. Obviously, back in 2011, I would imagine 2011, 2012, there were pretty pictures on a screen in front of us, and we all put our hands up and thought it would be a great idea. And I think the basis of it is that the business case probably never stacked up for Portharius because of the configuration of the building, because of we got Bryn, obviously, and we were probably a little bit starry-eyed at the time, but I get it. But the other spaces have just not been able to work. The Water Sports Centre perhaps wasn't run as efficiently as it could have been, but it's also a very difficult location. It's an offshore wind. It's not the easiest of locations to actually use as a sailing centre. So I think there somehow has to be some accountability, and whether that's with the politicians at the time, who obviously were only going off what the officers were telling them, because we do not want to make this mistake again, because this is such a drain on Sarah Ecob's budget, and I don't see how it's ever going to even be cost neutral, let alone make a profit. And obviously what scuppered the water sports provider, which was going to come in and do community water sports as well as for their own students. The issue was planning, and I remember it well, Sarah, that the planning officer didn't like the look of boats in a boat park at a water sports centre. I mean, you just couldn't make it up. And there was suggestion that the planning would say no, and it would go to committee, and committee may overturn it. There's too much risk for that operator at the time, and I think that's why it failed. So I get Crown Estates, that's great news, but they're not going to rent the building, are they? They're not going to find you your tenants. You've still got to go out there and find tenants in an unusual space building. But as I say, it's great to have an update in front of us, but it's kind of even worse than it was when I was looking at it. And I think we have to take the lessons here as councillors, is that we can't just say yes to pretty pictures and great ideas without working out whether it's going to actually lose us money over the years, which of course this place is. So thanks for the update, but it's really it's worrying. Thank you.
We have a committee member wanting to come in, that is Councillor Thomas Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was just a quick one. I've been led to believe that when Portharius was first built, that there was supposed to be 2 wind turbines attached to the building, and that was supposed to help with energy costs. And then from taking a look at the report, it says that one of the reasons that costs have gone through the roof, so to speak, is because of energy costs, and that the wind turbines are no longer there. So I just want a bit of history and context around, were there wind turbines there? If so, why have they gone? Because that seems like a poor decision to make now that the building is losing money because of high energy costs.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Bring Sarah in.
Yeah, Councillor Tom, thank you for that question. Yes, I believe I wasn't involved at the time, but I understand that there was a wind turbine, but the design wasn't suitable for the area that it was in. I don't know if there was actually a wind turbine there, but I'm aware that there was problems with it. So actually that is something we've been looking at again. We have been informed that there are turbines that would work well. So we are looking at them to see to double check that they would work well, and also to find out the costs of them, because obviously we would need capital funding to put a wind turbine in place. We've also looked at solar PV, but we don't think that's possible or practical with the design of the building. And then, as you can imagine, with any money we get, we're looking at how do we put mitigations in, whether it's reducing water use or energy reductions. So it's definitely on our radar, and wind turbine is something we've discussed. And again, if we can work out something that will work and we can find money, it would be an ambition to do that.
Councillor Tom, would you like to come back on that?
Chair. Yeah, I thanks Sarah for that answer, and appreciate that it was perhaps before her time. So I'm kind of asking her to recall history that perhaps isn't hers. But I just like to say that it's a little frustrating and disappointing, and perhaps feeds into what Councillor Louise was just saying, that I'm sure that when that was passed by councillors at the time, it was presented that, you know, there were going to be 2 wind turbines, and that was going to keep the building energy efficient and limit costs. And I assume Conway had grant money lined up for that as a part of the project, and then for whatever reason that hasn't come off. So yeah, it just seems like going back all those years, some of these projects are still being presented with sort of rose tinted glasses on there, and then when it hasn't quite come through in the way that it's been presented to members, it's ultimately been the authority, and through them the taxpayer, that's being left carrying the burden there. So yeah, I thank her for that answer, but if she does have any more information that she can get to me, I'd be quite happy to understand the history of that a little more. But yeah, thanks, Chair.
I suppose on that, if Councillor Tom was to contact you, Sarah, yeah, and get that information to him. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair.
Do have another committee member looking to speak. It's Councillor Harry Saville.
Yes, thanks, Chair, for that. Look, first of all, really pleased to hear the Cabinet members say that there are some developments with this and progress is afoot. I remember when I was a pretty new councillor in 2016, sitting in a full council meeting, I think it was full council in Bodlondeb, and listening to the then Cabinet making their announcements for the meeting, and problems with the commercial future of Porthairius were being raised back then 9 years ago. So it's concerning that we still haven't got a grip on this. I understand there'll be lots of issues, but as I've said, really pleased to hear from a Cabinet member that there is some progress. I think looking at the financial drain of this facility on the local authority's resources, I think I'd suggest we should probably have a follow-up report in 6 months if there is progress. I hope the Cabinet member will not take this as a criticism. We obviously have a report here which is pretty critical in financial terms. He's come to us today and given us this update. That's really welcome. That is really good, but we need to know more than that. We need to know what the outcome is. So perhaps a report in 6 months' time would be appreciated. I think the one other comment I would add with this is, if we look at the financial drain that this seems to have for the local authority, I think there does need to be some consideration around the impact it has on the authority's financial resilience. I mean, put bluntly, I'm a Llandudno councillor. You've recently looked at relocating a key local government asset out of Llandudno's town centre on the grounds of financial resilience. Yet we seem to have the money to spend on this, which I dare I say would describe as a vanity project. So I think it'd be useful if we could have that update in 6 months' time and have that assurance that things are turning a corner. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree, Councillor Harry, and I think Councillor Dillon wants to come in on that just quickly, and then I'd look to bring in the leader after that, if that's okay.
Yeah, more than happy. Councillor Harry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. It wasn't on at first.
Oh. Yeah, more than happy to bring a report back. It is something that I welcome, because as you can appreciate as well, Harry, I wasn't part of this council between 2017 and 22, when I thought I was retired, but I found out differently in 22. So Anyway, yes, and in the last few months now, I've taken it as something that's a priority to try and sort something out. I do believe that we've made the right move going to the Crown Estate as the first port of call, because that has also been a drain, and it has been, I'm sure Louise, you would agree, they weren't in the past very easy, and it was difficult to get hold of them, from what I've been told anyway. We've achieved that now, and what I'm hoping now is that we can look forward. What has happened in the past has happened. It's in the past, not condoning it at all, but my job in this portfolio now is to try and look forward and get something more positive to present in front of you for the future.
Diolch, thank you. If we could just bring in the leader, Councillor Charles McCoubrey.
Yeah, diolch, Cadar. Louise, you're absolutely right. You know, we need to learn lessons from every project that we do. As you said, you held this portfolio for a number of years, and your concern was that even the layout was never going to be commercially successful. So we do need to learn from that. I wasn't a councillor until 2017. I guess we live in a very different world from 2013. What was seen as maybe a good successful project then may not have borne out, as in this case. We know there's been lots of out-of-town centre commercial units and shopping centres, etc. But you know, your point is absolutely valid. I would want to emphasise that the biggest challenge of that site has been the Crown Estates, and I really want to thank Dilwyn. He was very frank with them at the WLGA meeting. On the back of that, it was an incredibly positive meeting. They were talking in the letter about enabling leases, about actually realising the financial situation that we're in and coming up with more appropriate figures given the challenges that we faced. I think what struck me most was the comment that they hadn't been a very proactive landlord since 2010, that they need to do more to support our communities. There was discussions around work they've done in Northern Ireland in terms of running coastal schemes and supporting people. So, you know, he was very thankful. He's been to Anglesey, they've been to Gwynedd, talking about and having a meeting with the CJC about what they could do. I did my little usual moan about, you know, how difficult it is financially in terms of the funding we've got and how important it is that every pound is accounted for. So, yeah, you always need to learn from things. You always need to move forward. And I do think we have good scrutiny. I think the decision to move into Venue Cymru has been scrutinised in great detail. Every project is different. Every project has its own challenges. So, but yeah, just absolutely want to record my thanks to Dilwyn, because I think that is absolutely the key here. That relationship and that ability to run that more commercially requires better cooperation with Crown Estates. Diolch, Dilwyn.
Thank you, Councillor Charlie. I just want to bring in Councillor Cheryl Carlisle. She's been waiting quite a bit, so thank you for being patient while the debate goes on.
Thank you, Councillor Michael. I'm a parent, so I'm patient. I'm used to this. Thanks very much for that report, Sarah. I asked for this report back in January, and I've been asking Councillor Aaron, previous to Councillor Dilwyn, for this report for a couple of years. Using local knowledge, there were 2 turbines there, 2 large wind turbines, and apparently one blew up quite spectacularly because it was the wrong specification. But nothing's been done for years and years on this. But I'm really glad that this report has been the catalyst to get something done, because, you know, that's really not good enough in terms of that. Because, of course, this building was termed as BREEAM Excellent, wasn't it? Because of the wind turbines, yet they've failed, and now we're talking about really high energy costs. So it's vital that we get that done. A couple of questions, please. Will the leisure services be, is it just sort of wooden dollars, the Conway pound? We're just putting Conway services in there, was the first question. Then the second one was, is the actual loss for 24-25, is that 210,000 in that table? I wasn't quite sure. Is that the actual loss for 24-25? So those are my two questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Cheryl. With regards to the leisure services, as I mentioned, we're looking at a range of options, Mali is working with his team to see if he can develop something that would be fundable or would bring in money. So I don't know the answer to whether that will be the case or not, but the aim of what we're trying to do is overall to reduce the costs of this building. So we're investigating all the different options, and then a decision will be made on which is the best way forward. And it may well be a mixture of a number of things. And as I mentioned, because we've got the Crown Estates and the other tenants, it's a bit of a jigsaw trying to pull it all together at the moment. In terms of the budget, yes, the budget for, sorry, did you say 24-25? Yeah, the actual budget requirement was 210,000, which, as I'm sure we all agree, is a lot more than we would like it to be.
We've lost Councillor Cheryl,
No,
but
there-
she's coming back.
Bad luck, you found me again. Yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that that's completely unacceptable, isn't it? It's not, you've inherited this problem, I absolutely know that, and I thank you for the steps you're taking to put it right. But the council taxpayers can't be expected to fund this. We've had some eye-watering rises. We've got social care and education suffering really bad lack of funding, and something has to give with this, doesn't it, straight away. So thank you very much. I welcome the next report, and thank you for letting me speak, Chair.
Thank you. We're going to bring in Councillor Gail Jones next. No.
Yeah, you said yourself off. Try again.
There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the report, Sarah and Dilwyn. Years ago, long before I became a councillor, the residents were sold Porthairius as a place where they could go, where they'd be able to use the toilets, use the changing rooms, get a coffee, get an ice cream, a bit of food, and that hasn't happened. We've got one tenant at the moment, and it seems to be all the eggs in one basket. It feels like we're being dictated to by the one tenant. Here's a high-end restaurant. What, is there any idea of looking at having some more food concessions in there which will serve the people off the beach? We've all seen how busy the beach is. We're losing out on that. It would be a different thing. We're not talking about fetching another high-end restaurant in, which would be competition, but it wouldn't be competition if you've got somewhere that does ice creams, a quick coffee, where you can go up to it and stand up to it with stand all over you. The toilets, you're saying there's toilets across the road. So you're getting young children having to walk across the road, and it's a busy road. That's not fair. The residents are being sold short. Residents don't use it generally. They're not getting anything out of it. Now they're charging for parking on the car park, so we're not getting revenue in on that because people are going parking somewhere else in the evenings. They won't park. The running club used to be there. Now they're going, so we're losing revenue on that. The car park is nowhere near as busy as it was. So I think we're losing out on a lot, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just come back to you regarding the Porthairius restaurant. We, as the county, agreed a lease with Bryn Williams and his company. And in that lease, there is an agreement that there won't be any other food outlets. That's not him dictating to us. That's a lease that we agreed as a council. So Mandy's got a good relationship with Bryn, meets with Bryn every month, or his manager. We're trying to make the building work as it stands now. So I think what you refer to is that the original concept for the building was that there'd be a family style cafe, and it would be very much something that was beach orientated, but obviously a decision was made to enter into an agreement with Bryn to bring his restaurant, and that has changed the dynamic. And you know, as I mentioned, it's great to have a Michelin guide restaurant in the area. He does really well. There is also the cafe there. I've had meetings in there a couple of times recently in the daytime, and the cafe has been very busy, constantly people coming to get their coffee or whatever. Yeah, that is part of Bryn's business. So we're dealing with what we've got now, which is that, you know, that was a decision made by members some time ago that we would enter into that agreement for that restaurant.
Thank you, Sarah. We've got Speaker Councillor Chris Hughes next.
Thanks, Chair. I think the recommendation to note the report was moved, so I'm happy to second that. But yeah, Portharius has been a bone of contention for myself and Councillor Abdul as the local members for a long time. I was involved in the conversations at the beginning when the toilets were discussed, for example, and it was very clear they were designed as public toilets, because we asked the question many times about why aren't we submitting as part of the waterfront project a bid to refurbish the toilets on the opposite side of the road. We were told you won't need them because these will be public toilets, and that was part of the bid. It was part of the documents that went forward to the European Union and everything else. But obviously, if we'd have been raising those while we were still within the European Union, they could have claimed some of that money back. So we didn't, because we didn't want to cause more problems for the council. But they still continue to be a problem, and the meeting that has been asked for was asked for by me and Abdul. That's why we were the only ones that have been invited, because it was myself and Abdul that asked for the meeting. So it wasn't a case of ignoring officers ignoring other members. It was specific that we'd asked for the meeting. But I do note the report. I do understand the concerns. I've voiced my own opinions in the past about the type of facilities we should have there. I'm not going to rehearse them again, but you know, it was frustrating that in 2018 previous administration chose to support the requests from the owner, and the officers approved the closing of that facility to the public, which as a public toilet. And that is quite frustrating, because both Abdul and I voiced our views, but we were ignored at that time. I get that, and I understand that the rationale behind that, but we've since that day have constantly asked ERF and Sarah's predecessors about the need for a public toilet in that place. I think the very first discussion me and you had, Sarah, when you were first appointed to this, was we've got to do something about the public toilets, and they remain an issue to this day. I hope, I hear that there's potentially a grant on the application that could address that issue, but certainly the public and the residents that I speak to are really not happy about having to use the toilets on the opposite side of the road, which are not fit for purpose, and being shown the door or told that they can't use the toilets in a public building, when not that long ago we put out on social media that councillors, the members of the public would be able to use the buildings in council-owned public buildings. Now, I appreciate that there is certain nuances within words, but as far as the public were concerned, that meant all council-owned buildings. But when they've attended Portharius, they've been turned away, and I think that's wrong. I make a point of going in there and going and using the toilets, and I will not be turned away. But I think that, you know, it's not fair that we end up with we had thousands of visitors come to Colwyn Bay over the summer, and their first introduction to Conway is those toilets across the road, which are an absolute disgrace. We should be ashamed that we operate those toilets.
If I could bring in Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just for clarity, the meeting on the 2nd of October is for all local members, and Councillor Gale and Councillor Neil, you are invited. I have just checked; you are already on the list. Yeah, it should be in your diary. If not, please let me know, and I will make sure it's resent. But I can see you're on the meeting list there, and that is the meeting which we will discuss the toilets further with all the local members. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I've had a speaker in the chamber waiting a little while, so before bringing Councillor Simon Croft, if I could bring in Councillor Paul Leclerc.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak, because I'm not a member of this committee, but I did give Sarah, Amanda and Dilwyn a heads up on this prior to this meeting, and that's why I'm here tonight, really, because I think this report again highlights something that we explored at some length in the service performance review very recently about value for money. Are we being commercial? Are we being sufficiently risk takers, or are we too risk averse? But I think in this context, I hear Harry asking for a report in 6 months' time. But my own view is we need to reach hard conclusions in relation to the facts that have been reported tonight and difficult decisions. And I think that difficult decision, whatever that difficult decision is, needs to be taken in this budget round and needs to be signed off politically in this budget round, because I wouldn't be comfortable in this matter being further kicked down the road, because it seems to me like a lot of things since I joined the council in 2022, a lot of things have constantly been kicked down the road. And so I would assert quite strongly, I'm not a member of this committee, that this matter, hard conclusions need to be reached, and difficult decisions need to be put before us as politicians, and we need to sign this difficult political decision off in this year's budget round. I'd be very, very unhappy if those decisions were delayed and don't impact the next financial year. And so I know that's a tough ask, but I suspect there will be a majority on the council to take those tough decisions in this budget round.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Harry has already proposed that we bring a report in the next 6 months, and Councillor Dilwyn wants to come back to you, I think, on your questions. So if I just bring him in first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would agree with you, Paul. We need hard conclusions, but isn't that what I'm trying to do? It's getting to a place where we can make a decision. At the moment, we're not there, because we've only just had the first meeting with the Crown Estate, for example. Is it 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks? Less than that, 2 weeks ago. And I think we are moving. I appreciate totally what you're saying, but at the moment, I can't give you anything more concrete than that. What I will tell you is I'm trying, and I'm trying my best.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Dilwyn, and I say this with deep respect for your political experience and history. Trying is not good enough. The intention, no, just a minute. The intention must be of this council to reach firm conclusions and difficult decisions in this next budget round. This situation, in my view, cannot go on into the next financial year. And we need, they are going to be very hard conclusions and very difficult decisions. I don't know what they are, but our intention as a council should be to take that through this next budget round so that we are not in the situation where we will have significant losses in next year's budget as well. It can't be any clearer than that. It's not about trying, it's about intention.
Well,
Thank you, Councillor Paul.
if I use the wrong word, I'll apologise to Paul. But surely, seeing the report come forward, that my intention is to try and find a solution. I can't explain it any better than that. If I've chosen the wrong word, I apologise. But I will, and I've agreed. Hopefully we can bring another report forward in 6 months. And I welcome that because, and I think working together, looking to the future, it's absolutely necessary that we try and do something here.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dillon.
Can I come just once more? Can I suggest then that those firm conclusions and difficult decisions, 6 months takes us through to March. I think that report needs to be in front of the council before we set the next budget. So if it has to come back in 4 months rather than 6 months, that's what I'm not a member of this committee,
Sure.
but that's what I would argue has to happen.
So I'll ask Sarah if that would be, the proposal from Councillor Harry was in 6 months. I'll ask the committee members if there's any amendments to that. There are movements and members' meetings happening in the next 2 weeks, beginning of October, just a week away. So everything is, well, not everything, there are things moving forward and already progressing. We've heard from the cabinet member how proactive they are being with officers. I don't know whether it's possible within 4 months, but I'll take an appetite from the committee tonight. I do have another speaker as well, and I am conscious of time, so I'll just ask members of the committee or Councillor Harry, who had proposed 6 months, whether he'd like to bring a discussion point on that.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was actually going to ask if I could come back in just as there was a discussion around proposing the recommendation, because I don't think I'd been clear about a proposal that we have a report within the next 6 months. So I'd like to be very clear that that's a proposal, and just for clarity's sake, it is within the next 6 months. I would hope the cabinet member and head of service would be in a position to bring that forward sooner. But let's be honest, we'll be looking at setting our budget in March. I don't see why that report cannot come forward before then. But with the best one in the world, I'm not the one writing it. So I think we should be reasonable with the demands and expectations on both cabinet and officers. But very quickly, the one thing I would ask that we could have included in that report, I thought the comments made by Councillor Gail Jones and the head of service around a feeling that we were perhaps being dictated to by the current tenant at that site, and the suggestion that we're not being dictated to. We entered into a lease agreement with them. Well, if there's no dictating going on, surely we're in a position to approach that tenant and request that they look at varying the lease. So perhaps those discussions might take place, and that could be touched on in that report. So, as I've said, happy to propose that a report comes back here within the next 6 months.
In 6 months. So next speaker is Councillor Simon Croft tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, it's a shame, really, but we do really have to look at all the options in view of the amount of expenditure we're on this place. £280,000 per year of expenditure on what's not a really large building seems staggering to me. and I really would like to see a breakdown at the members' meeting that's coming up of how that figure is arrived at. As I say, it seems an awful lot of money, but I do think in 6 months, I'm afraid I am in agreement somewhat with Paul. We do need to bring all the options to the table, including closure, and what the implications of that would be.
Thank you very
Thank
much, Councillor Simon. So I'm going to take my last speaker tonight, because in the chamber I think we've got all hands down. So my last speaker tonight is Councillor David Carr.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As a Colwyn Bay member, then I want this to be a success, and we do need to get more tenants into the building. On the controversy of the toilets, then it is a public building, and I think the public should be allowed to use the toilets. Really, that's always been my opinion on it. On the toilets across the road, the town council can't be expected to indefinitely fund those toilets. The town council's already paying 68,000 towards Theatre Colwyn. It's paying towards the paddling pools. It's paying towards the play areas. So this isn't an indefinite commitment. So I think we need to get the building moving. We need to make it the heart of the prom and for the people that visit there. And I think the toilets do need to be open to the public. I think that we can't rely on the town council to subsidise the toilets across the road indefinitely. Okay, well, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much for your comments. So everyone, thank you for the debate tonight. Thank you very much, Councillor Dilwyn, for introducing it and answering members' questions. Thank you, Sarah, for going through the detailed report and your answers. Local members, I'm sure, will be looking forward to the meeting early in October, and there'll be some discussion points there. As Councillor Harry has made the proposal for the report to come within 6 months, and as soon as possible, being conscious of the officers' time and the preparation of that. I'd like to note the report, and if we could go to and open a vote. Oh no, I need a seconder. Sorry, apologies. So, do we have a seconder for this tonight, Councillor Allen in the chamber? Thank you. So we're going to open the vote now, and look to vote on the report. So that voting function should be open and running. Yeah, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone, tonight. Have a good evening, safe journeys home, and the meeting has ended. Thank you.